This is Daniel, and this is Shifting Perspectives. And today I want to talk about, or Spirit wants to talk about, are you enough, worthiness, and worthy of love, and all those kind of things. But before I start, I think I want to add something here. We'll do a little prayer. Thank you for guiding and supporting us in releasing whatever non beneficial energies, beliefs, or programs are ready to be released and to activate more love in all areas of our life. So why don't we just take a moment, just kind of let everything settle, let our mind settle. I know if this is a very appropriate topic and common problem in a lot of people's lives, let's be just really ready for the solution and for understanding this. So instead of diving right directly into the answers and the talking, let's maybe acknowledge that we're ready. What would happen? What would happen if something shifted today in you? That whatever how big this problem is a small problem or a big problem, something that just came up or something's been with you for your entire life, that what if something was allowed to shift right now? How would that change things? So the way that I usually approach things is a little bit from pragmatic spirituality. So, I kind of want to go right down into the truth of things, kind of aggressively sometimes, very um, almost like a legal battle, like a what's it called when you go to court and there's a legal back and forth. It's not coming to me right now, but I want to kind of state my facts. And isn't it true, Daniel, that you are a divine being, that kind of thing. So I kind of have fun with that and just kind of go right into beyond the distortion of my own mind. So my mind tells me that I'm not enough. And yet there's this truth going on. So I want to go into all the different kind of from different angles of what the truth actually is. So the first thing is, I feel like the way that we really get to the core solution is to stop trying to fix it from the adult life perspective. That as we considering like if we're not feeling enough, we're going to keep on trying to do things and make ourselves more valuable and go to school and show the world that we're capable. And yet it's never going to be enough. You will never be enough. I want to make sure that that's really clear. You will never be enough considering your mind. From the perspective of your mind, you will never be enough. So stop trying to try and be enough so that your thoughts will never, your thoughts will stop saying that you're not enough. It's just, there's only one time in your life that's probably going to stop, and that's when you die. So here we are, we're trying to convince our own mind that we are enough through positive affirmations or the work that we do or whatever we do. And it's just the mind is so convincing and so manipulative and so insidious sometimes that it will manipulate you into believing, yep, that's you're still not enough. It's like it's a frustrating thing. So there's two aspects of this not being enough. One is the social and the temporal or temporal. And the social is this thing where compared to other people, I'm not enough. I, Daniel, don't know enough or haven't experienced enough, or I don't know what to say. I'm going to go into this session with this psychiatrist and I'm not enough to affect change in this person's life because they're a psychiatrist or they're a doctor or they're all those things. And yet it always works out. And it's like, it's those times when I need to kind of put that in my data bank that, isn't it true, Daniel, that you had this feeling like you weren't enough and then it worked out? So I need to really kind of tell my mind or put that into my data banks to make sure that that's recorded. And I've even gone in to even write down all the things that I've done in my life, all the triathlons and black belt and travel and love and emotions and all. If you would write down all the experiences that you've had that you can remember, man, you would have a list. And it's like, wow, as far as living on this planet, you're pretty capable. You're pretty enough to live on this spinning, moving planet, not knowing where it's going. But and yet you create life, and yet you breathe, and you eat, and you poop, and all those things that human beings need to do. And you do it all while driving. Hopefully not the last one, but you do multiple things. You have very multiple multitasking. And you really, if you really think about all the stuff that you do, you really come to some different realization. So here's something for who you are right now, or let's even look back at where you were, let's say 15 years ago. Maybe you did some terrible things. Maybe you upset people, you hurt people, you caused suffering in people's life. If I look back at myself back at that time, and I did cause some pain and some suffering and some broken hearts, for who I was back then, I was the right one. I was enough. For who I was, or not expecting myself to be the Dalai Lama or Deepak Chopra or something. For who I was completely enough. And for who I am right now, I'm enough. Not for who I'm becoming, as far as like the physicality of me, the personality of me. I'm not quite enough yet. There's still some experience and still some inner growth to become who I'm becoming. But who I am right now, what I'm capable of and what I know and what my skill set is, I'm enough for right now. So if I look at that, that really kind of settles me back down and say, okay, I am always becoming. And who I am right now is it's the right skills, it's the right knowledge, it's the right frequency of consciousness. Again, back then, if I look at it 20 years ago, I wasn't this frequency of consciousness back then. So how can I expect myself to be any different than that? The other question, the question to ask ourselves is, if we get into this, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. By the way, this idea is just, this is the real epidemic. That if you really talk to someone, have an intimate conversation with someone, like I tend to do a lot, is if you really get down to it, beyond all the anger and the sadness and the feelings and the frustration, probably the most common thing is, I don't feel like I'm worthy. I don't feel like I'm enough, or I don't feel like I'm worthy of love. And some of that stuff comes from what some parents, some idiot parents have told their children. Oh my gosh, it's crazy some of the stuff that I hear of what a parent, you're the devil, shit like that. And of course, a child is going to get that into their psyche. Or even if they say, I know I'm not the devil, but I guess I'm not worthy of love, at least from this parent. And then if you stay with that, then you start to see more and more examples of that, and it just gets into your psyche. So I can see how it would physically happen. And you don't even need anything to happen for you to not feel worthy. I mean, if you consider the idea that you came from one source, or from God, or from source energy, and then here you are with this feeling of separation from that, it's just a natural feeling of separation and not being worthy of, like, to be into that divine energy. At least that's kind of the perception that goes on in the psyche or in the mind. So the question also to ask is, because I really feel like there's everything is ours to have. And the only reason why we don't have those things which are related to feelings is because we have some kind of resistance or some kind of block in our field that doesn't allow that. And usually, it could be, I don't feel worthy of having abundance or love, or, all these different things. So the one question to ask yourself is that, is there a need to not feel good enough? I know that's a weird question, but if you really think about it, like, if you're really honest with yourself, what if I did feel good enough? That would mean that that you bragged about yourself, or that you're high and mighty, or you're not humble, and all those kind of things. And I know that when I grew up, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, And it was either direct or implied that it's very virtuous to self-degradation, to talk crap about yourself and how terrible you are, and all this, like, not being enough is a very virtuous thing to be. And you could never be someone like as virtuous as Mother Teresa, who probably didn't feel great about herself. She was just in the duty of serving God in her way. And that just really kind of plays on you that it's just better just to keep myself low profile, better just keep myself small. And all these people that think themselves so awesome are assholes, and they're not nice people, because they're just all they think about is themselves. And that may be true, but not across the board. And it really doesn't serve humanity to keep ourselves small. In fact, there's this Marianne Williamson quote that goes something like, our greatest fear is not that we're small and weak, but it's that we're more powerful beyond any measure. And consider that one, that you are more powerful than any measure, any thought that you may have about yourself. You're more powerful than this body, than this life, than this existence. Could it be that you are creators of worlds, that you exist in different galaxies? Who knows? If there's something beyond this, then everything is up there, so everything is possible. So if you did have that need to not feel good enough, that this has kind of kept you in that, what it really amounts to, victim consciousness, what does that do for you? So it must do something for you. It must give you maybe some, or people are softer with you. Maybe they give you a little bit of compassion. Maybe you get some kind of need met, that people kind of, oh, well, this person doesn't really feel really great about themselves, so let's give them a free lunch. I'm not being very sensitive about it, and maybe it does not sound very nice, but if you're really honest with yourself, maybe you can relate to some of that you do get some compassion from people by putting out there that you're not good enough. But the problem with that is, if you follow that thought about not being good enough, it's coming from your mind, which will never be good enough. In fact, I'm talking about the egoic identity mind, and it lives in fear and worry and blame and shame and regret and resentment. So you can see how it's never going to be good enough in its own perceptions. But can you trust that? If you're getting the perception of yourself that you're not good enough, and it's coming from your mind, can you trust that? And this is where I would take it. Litigation, that's the word I was thinking about. If you were to take this into litigation, it would fail so miserably. Isn't it true, Daniel, that you are trusting some aspect of yourself that never can be trusted? Isn't it true? It would kind of go that way. And it's kind of fun to think about what we're really trusting, what ideas that we're really holding on to. And they can really be manipulative. So the next question might be, this wanting to get away from this, wanting to resolve and heal and integrate this feeling that you probably got from childhood, from some teacher that told you were stupid, or whatever the thing is, that you want to somehow release that. Well, one of the ways to really release it is to find some way to disidentify from the mind that is telling you that. Not detach from it in a way that is not a part of you. You need it, but to disidentify your being, yourself, the I, with what your mind tells you about that. And one of the ways to do that is through this holotropic breath work, or intensive breath work, sometimes plant medicines, something that gives you that pulling away from the mind and allowing those thoughts to subside. Even sound healing can do it. With the right vibration of instruments, can kind of put you into the theta state or meditative state, so that you find yourself beyond your thoughts. So I've experienced, a lot of those different ways that have helped to kind of show me who I am beyond my thoughts. And one of those ways was a toad medicine that I did a long time ago. And it's supposed to be the strongest medicine out there as far as a hallucinogenic. And it really showed me that even my body, I didn't need to exist. And then at the end of the experience, my thoughts started to kind of restructure themselves. And it was really interesting to have the experience of being nothing, no identity, and then watch or feel the structure of my identity and my thoughts establish themselves. So I'm not promoting the medicines per se, but I am promoting breath work can do the same thing. Sometimes meditation can, sometimes sound healing can, but definitely breath work has the possibility of doing what that medicine did. Let's see. Are you doing everything you can to clear that belief? The same thing goes with that breath work and meditation and whatever can take you to that place. Um, I don't really feel like it needs to be an ongoing thing. It should be something that gives you that realization, and something like breath work that can take you back to the kind of a reset in your life. Are you doing everything you can to clear that belief, like fasting and cleansing and meditating and exercising? If you're not doing those things, then the question comes back to why not? Why aren't you doing what you could be doing? And I guess when I ask myself that question, why I'm not doing those things, it's because I'm connected with a feeling of guilt and shame. Oh, I didn't do it. I didn't fast properly, or I didn't, I ate that, whatever. And it goes back into me. I'm needing to clear the guilt that's still there. So you always come back to, something is just still needing to be resolved back there. The other question is, if you did feel good enough to yourself, if you did feel in a healthy way enough and worthy of love and all those things, what would happen to you, or what do you believe would happen to you if you did? Like, would you become a jerk? Would you become a person that wasn't loving? Is there a part of you now that you feel would go away if you had this feeling of complete confidence and knowing who you are and feeling like, as you are right now, you are completely enough, and there's no, even the feeling of not being worthy or worthy is not really a real idea. Who would you become? What would you be responsible for? What would that mean about you? So that's where the fear from the own mind starts to kind of manipulate in there. I think something that really helps this whole idea of not being enough and not being worthy, that is not trusting. Um, and part of that is because you don't know what your own boundaries are, what your own needs are. So one of the first steps is to find out who you are as a person beyond, your tendency to go out and go fix everyone or to help everyone. Pulling yourself back and find out who you are behind that, and what your own needs are, which are always related to what your needs were when you were a kid, before you got into coping mechanisms and conditioning from the world and all that. Before that, in your authentic self, what were your needs, brought on by your environment and your from your parents and that kind of thing. So that really helps us kind of get into that place. uh Here's something to ponder. Consider the character in the dream that you're having. As you have a dream, are they worthy? Does that make sense? That when you consider, when you're having a dream and there's a character in the dream, whether you see just the feet or the whole body, but knowing that there's a character having the experience in the dream, are they worthy? Does that really apply? So then pull yourself back and imagine that you're in a dream being dreamt by loving awareness or pure consciousness. Does it make sense, this idea of worthiness? It would be kind of like you kind of squint your eyes and tweak your head and go, I don't really, it does not compute. But to the mind, it makes a lot of sense, because there's this idea of worthiness, of fitting into groups and being qualified or certified or part of a family, and all those kind of things, that you are worthy through judgment from other people. But behind that, behind the dream, behind in the reality, there's no such thing as worthiness, because it's not part of the program. It's not part of the holodeck. It's something that's created in the holodeck. It's created in that distortion of reality. And it fits because we need this judgment of all things and all people. But in reality, it's not really a real concept in there. So I got to tell you that I'm going to end this with this experience I had yesterday. And I was driving home and I was listening to Pandora, and it was the station called Snow Patrol, which is the name of a band that kind of gives you, related bands. But I was listening to the song, and a lot of the songs are kind of emotionally driven, and they're kind of spiritual, I guess you'd say. And I was kind of getting in the zone. I was driving, and something came over me, and the feeling that came over me was, God, I just love this life. And I started to yell in the car. And I started to yell, I love you, Daniel. I love you. Oh, man, I just love you so much. Thank you so much for this life. And I started crying about the beauty and the pain. And I started to realize that I'm not going to be here forever. And it could be next week. It could be 20 years from now. I don't know. And it just kind of came over me that I've been loving having this experience, all of it, all the crap, all the love, all the shifting in who I've become, and all the friends that I've had in my life, and all the players and all the people, and it's just this feeling just came over me of just completely alive in the moment, and like this idea of worthiness and not enough, and it just really sank into me. Yeah, you're enough. And for you the character, for you, this one called Daniel Posney, how can you be any different? It's you, that you're the one that is as you are. And I was just yelling and crying and just going, yeah, I love it. I love this guy Daniel. I love how he's not this perfection in the human sense, and yet he's perfect. And it really kind of came where I just kind of cried all the way home. And it was so beautiful to honestly consider that there's an end to this. There's an end to this. And I was like, at some point, it's not going to be my world anymore. And I really got just this feeling of complete gratitude for the time that I have. It just kind of came over me. And I know that some people get that kind of realization when they get a diagnosis of a life-threatening illness or something, or they get into an accident that they're right on the edge, man. They're going to stay or they're going to go. And maybe that comes over a lot of people, but I was blessed with that yesterday, of just being completely not attached and gratitude at the same time. It was really beautiful. And this thing about worthiness, it was kind of like, it's like, there's like you're in high school and it's very serious to look cool, and then you graduate from high school and you think about high school again. That's got to be how it is when you die, or at least that my perspective it is. After I die, I'm going to look at this idea called worthiness and being enough as like being back in high school. We took it too seriously, and it was an idea. And now, there's this liberation from that idea. I hope this helps. I love you. I thank you and bless you, and hope to see you next time. Thank you.